Double espresso here. And
Robert, good morning.
hello, Marcel. How are you?
I'm friggin' fabulous. I'm sitting here in your office, as you can see.
Yeah, that's hilarious, man. I love it.
Well, you sent me the background, so it was either this or I was going to be sitting in a bowl of fusilli. So, is it?
Yeah, that was like, well, I mean, you said what we've been cooking. I mean, there's a whole little chapter of that, but
Yeah.
part of the reason I sent you the background of the office is one of the things I've been doing, without meaning to, over the 46 years of this that I've been doing it professionally, I ended up collecting certain items. And a couple of the items I ended up collecting were laminates. And back in the day before we all ended up with these virtual itineraries, all the itinerary books. And
Oh,
years ago, I had my assistant Rebecca at the time strip out the cover pages and the contact pages for just like, I don't know, call it 200 itinerary books, maybe more.
wow.
And so my framers who, I collect fine art. And so I've got these guys who've been framing stuff for me for, once again, call it 30 years. We collected all this stuff, and I started to do what's in your background and my background, which is go through and say, okay, here's the work with the presidents. Here's Michael Jackson. I sorted it by subject. And I actually have a whole subset of all the festivals and all of the conferences and everything. I'll probably never get to that.
Yeah, well, what are you going to do with it all, though?
We started building these shadow boxes. Well, we've been building these shadow boxes of some of which are in our backgrounds right now. And so right now, and once again, this goes on for a while. I do it. And then, of course, you get so busy that 6 months goes by and you go, shit, I never finished this one, or this one, right? So
Right.
that's one of those things that now I have this unique opportunity to catch up on and continue to push forward. Because the guys, aren't that far away, and we work virtually most of the time. They do a lot of the printing and the content, send me stuff for approval, and I send them like, okay, this was designed by Leroy Bennett or John Broderick or whoever it was designed by, me, whatever. And here's the equipment company. This was the tour. So we have little credits in the bottom of each of the shadow boxes. And of course,
that's interesting.
there's more of it than I'll ever be able to hang. But
Well, that's what I was going to say.
I mean,
your office looks pretty well wallpapered already. My background here being Robert's office.
Yeah.
And so, where are you going to put all this stuff? I mean,
well, I'm really, really disciplined about this. So the stuff goes in the gym and the gym bathroom and this office and two other rooms up here. The rest of the house is all fine art, right?
Oh, okay.
And some family art, right? Family pictures and stuff.
Are you
right?
still in that same beautiful house outside Atlanta?
No, that went away. I like to call that the marriage mansion. That went away when the marriage went away, 11 odd years ago, right? And so I'm in a townhouse that's a tri-level townhouse, basically on the perimeter.
Oh,
and
okay.
It's great because, I don't have to play the pool boy anymore, But I renovated the place top to bottom. It's got a chef's kitchen in it, it's like set seriously.
Yeah.
And, once again, in the cooking phase of things, we're kind of in a routine here. Here's a setup for all this. So I'm in England building 2 shows the week of March 7th, right? And literally up in Coventry at the Christie Lights office, the shows cancel out from under us while they're on the floor. They go to London. have dinner with a bunch of the clients. The border from Europe closes on Friday the 13th. I'm flying on Saturday the 14th already. I just leave it alone, get here, get through, it was global entry. There was nothing to it, right?
Right.
And so the 5 days later, we're supposed to go to Cancun for 10 days. It's my spring vacation shot, right? After the first wave and before the second wave of work, right? In between, before the New York Auto Show, before, now Robin Hood and all the other stuff that's canceled, that's not touring. So we're sitting here looking at it, and I'm going, probably not a good idea. One of my doctors goes, I really don't want you to go out overseas. So I canceled the trip, and literally the day we were going to fly was when the border with Mexico closed.
Oh, Jesus.
So
yeah, probably not a great idea.
We're kind of in, so we obviously didn't go, but the first week we're like, okay, well, we're on vacation. And we kind of took a vacation schedule, which for me is like get up, work out, eat, collapse on the beach with a book. Well, the collapse on the beach with a book thing wasn't happening because the pollen count was like 7,000 or something, And so the next week, it was like you just had to get into a routine, which I'm into. You get up at something around the same time, and I spend a bunch of time on self-care.
Yeah,
extra gym time, extra stretching, keep up with all my medical and self-care medical appointments. And but back to the food.
You're not sitting in front of the news, I hope, first thing in the morning for like 3 hours to really fuck your day up. Yeah, good.
No. I socially distance from most of the talking head shit.
Yeah.
Once a day I sit down in the evening and listen to half an hour of it and go, yeah. And once again, you got to search around and make sure that you're not on the doom and gloom network. You get something. So, sometimes I tune into BBC just to get something, get a different take on the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Yes, and then there's that, right? Okay, so that was my take on updated Americanized Sunday roast. That's a standing rib roast, and that night it came with English peas and potatoes and the whole thing, right?
That's pretty. That looks pretty good. What is it? What meat is that?
A standing rib roast of beef. It's only two ribs with a mustard and herb crust, and then girlfriend Lee made the classic kicked up horseradish sauce. That was
that looks friggin' amazing. I mean, it's like it's 10 o'clock in the morning, and I want some.
Oh, it turned out perfectly. I mean, once again, you got a wolf range and you got all the gear, and but having cooked for 35 years and 20 years for a family of four, did all it was, once again, it was just. Oh, let's do Sunday roast. That'd be fun. Kind of like, and that was last night, facility with pesto and sauteed vegetables and some shrimp and stuff,
And you're making this stuff obviously all from scratch. You're not buying like a pesto sauce from Publix or something.
No. I grow basil every year, right? And towards the end of the season, the basil plants are big. But what I do is I go through a marathon pesto making session. And I got a bunch of ice cube trays, and the pesto. That's cilantro and parsley. That's a different hack. I'll tell you about that in a second. But the pesto goes in ice cube trays, and I freeze it all up in freezer bags. So when I want pesto, I just go in the freezer, grab however many cubes of pesto I want, defrost them, and off we go. That's part of the herb garden that's coming out. There's
Yeah, I mean, people listening on the podcast are going, what the hell are these people talking about? But I'm showing images. You're going to have to go to YouTube to see them. But I'm showing images just of this garden that, what is this, right outside your townhouse?
Yeah, that's right outside the front door because the kitchen's in the front ground floor of the place, right?
Oh, wow.
Right outside, there's sage, mint, rosemary, the basil's coming up, chives, thyme, oregano. On the other side, there's tarragon and lavender. So, once again, you want eggs with chives in the morning where you go out, you snip some chives, you Snip them up, make up your soft scrambled eggs, and off you go.
That's amazing.
Um,
Wow, good for you, man.
and it's
And
all
you,
under
I mean,
irrigation, so that when I'm gone back in the days when that we're going to return to before too long, at some point, all this stuff, was on drip irrigation, so it's all good when the place is closed up and I'm on the road.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
Marcel, I don't go on the road like on a tour. I'm just in and out constantly.
Well, but the interesting thing is you do this stuff even there. I changed my background. I'm now in your office facing the other direction now. If you were to
You're now
spin your
sitting where
chair,
I'm sitting, looking at the Star Trek or Command Bridge, of video screens
yeah,
for work, right?
yeah.
No,
But
I do all this stuff normally.
yeah, yeah,
I
that's
mean, and having worked out of my home now since 2007 at the end of the PRG days, I kind of have it down. Like the screenshot you're seeing. The funny thing is, I'm so used to working like this that when I'm in a hotel with just a laptop, I'm going,
yeah,
okay, we can only get that much done,
yeah.
because with the screens, and all the data coming at me, it just makes it a lot more efficient.
So tell me, Robert, what's your day look like? So you said you get up and you're doing a lot of Robert stuff in the morning, health,
Yeah,
exercise.
right. First thing I do, I get up, I have sometimes I have a light breakfast. It might be just a light breakfast, go into my gym, which is in the basement of the house, daylight basement. And once again, it's pretty fully outfitted.
Yeah.
I'll do, whereas I used to do maybe an hour to 90 minutes. Now, a lot of time it's 2.5 hours in the gym,
Wow, good for you,
and
man.
then I come out and I do like, I may just grab a little snack to stave off. Girlfriend Lee usually makes lunch these days because then I just sit down here and go to work for a while, right?
Yeah.
And for a guy who has no revenue coming in, Marcel, I'm damn busy,
Yeah, wow.
because
Trust
there's
me, I know
all
it.
kind of interaction with Christy Lights management, and we've got a lot of stuff on the go. I mean, for instance, right now we're launching into re-barcoding the entire company's inventory because we're at a
Holy
unique
shit.
point
Yeah.
where we have the ability to do this in 8 weeks instead of 8 months, right?
Yeah.
So all the barcoding is going to RFID tags, right?
Yeah.
Which is, with our inventory, it's pretty significant. And we're also reassessing procedures. There's a whole lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. And while the company is working at a skeleton level, the offices aren't closed. There's skeleton crews in all the offices.
You're an interesting character because although I think your main role is like more on the account exec side for touring and for car shows and big shows and corporates and stuff, but you're a very smart operations guy. And I don't know that many people know that about you. You're actually a very bright guy when it comes to how to put the pieces and X's and O's together. And I know that Huntley's a maniac about that stuff. Like Huntley was doing Amazon.
Really,
Huntley was doing Amazon level
yeah.
stuff way before they ever did it, like where boxes had to be certain sizes and had to fit in certain holes, and everything was, like I remember in his warehouses where he had the truck packs, on the warehouse floor and those types of things way before anybody else did.
Still do.
Yeah.
One of the brilliant, Huntley's a brilliant guy, and I love him to death. And one of the key talents the man has is he's an incredibly smart systems guy. So, luckily for me, he and the rest of Christy Lights management respect my opinions and my input. So there are times where we just, I'm called on to just provide some input or some perspective because so much of the Christy Lights management kind of grew up within the company, and I'm an outsider who's got experience with a bunch of different things.
Right. And you're not Canadian.
Well, he's an American citizen now, but yeah, like you, he's like you, Marcel, Canadian.
Yeah.
Right? But having the experience of both my own company and then PRG, plus all of that design arc where I ended up working alongside everybody, C Factor, BML, Obies, Upstaging, Tasco, LSD, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It just goes on. There's probably, 18, 20
Yeah.
companies. At one point or another, I touched their operation. So you kind of gain a smattering of input across the whole thing. It gives you good perspective.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because not a lot of people see you as being an operations guy. So when you sit here talking about being in meetings about barcoding the entire inventory and stuff like that, people would go, "What? You're not like looking at plots or meeting with designers or whatever?" And you do that as well. But
I do a lot of that.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. By the way, before I forget to tell you, make sure to check out the Troy Volhofer interview I did last week.
Oh, I've got to.
Yeah, well, he talks about you.
He's a great guy.
So you were one of his early.
He's a really good personal. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, you were one of his early inspirations when he said when he was like 13, 14 years old and was pushing boxes into the theater that his dad managed or whatever. He would see Robert Roth or R.A. Roth on these boxes, and he didn't know what it meant, but he just knew this guy must be a rock star of some sorts if his name is on the boxes, and wow, this guy's got his shit together. And then, eventually he became a friendly competitor to you and, talks about how much he respects you and loves you and all that stuff.
Well, I love the guy to death, Marcel. He's a brilliant guy. I mean, the thing about him that's really brilliant is that his greatest successes aren't in the lighting company.
Yeah,
I'm not denigrating the lighting company, but the festival promotion and what he did with WME and everything made him a very, very successful guy. Right?
Yeah, he's done much bigger things than just Premier Global Lighting.
And the whole DOD barricade thing that he does and all that, that's just all brilliant shit. But he and I spent a lot of time at festivals. Festival arc, both at PRG and Christie Lights, he and I spent a lot of time together.
You have a real attraction to Canadians, I can see.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
They just keep popping
just
up.
The way it worked out.
Yeah, that's funny.
An aging New Yorker.
Well, we accept you, Robert, as a wannabe Canadian. We accept you. So what's the rest of your day look like? Your girlfriend makes you lunch, and then what happens?
Yeah, most of the time she makes me lunch. Then we get towards the dinner hour, which for me right now is normally I eat late. Like most of the time in the normal flow of business, it's somewhere between 8:30 and 10 o'clock is dinner hour. It's more like Spain than America, right? Because the workflow goes so that the West Coast kind of slows down and people at certain levels, my phone rings a lot in the 7 to 8 plus range in the evenings, just because there are people who go, "Oh, he's not that busy. I can get to him and talk to him."
Yeah, right. Sure.
But now I'm shutting it down a lot of time, anywhere between 6:30 and 8 o'clock, right? And so dinner is 5 days. It's kind of evolved into a 5-odd day a week schedule that I do dinner, and then we go and do order, pick up, take out, and there've been some real high points. I have a lot of friends in the restaurant business here. And,
I know that. You've introduced me to a few great places. Yeah. No, but I'm a huge fan of, obviously, of supporting the local restaurants, especially. Not that I'm against chains or anything. I love chain restaurants too, but the guys who really are putting in a big effort to keep their business alive right now. And there's one in particular here locally where I am that the mom is taking the orders and getting everything scheduled. The dad is the chef. The kid is doing all of the deliveries, because I didn't know this before, but they're giving away, I think it's between 20 and 30% of the ticket to like Uber Eats or Delivery Dudes. I didn't realize that
until you mentioned it.
That's insane.
We go pick up.
Yeah.
Girlfriend Lee goes and picks up. Like for instance, two buddies of mine run a top level Italian restaurant that's actually outside the perimeter. and they started early. So we go hit them. We hit a place called the Iberian Pig. Earlier this week, there's a combo Chinese Thai restaurant. It's got the best wonton soup in Atlanta, you know.
Yeah.
Well, we're hitting these kind of little, and that place has been around for like 30 plus years, right?
Oh, that's awesome.
We're hitting that kind of level of, and it's just gonna be a night off from cooking, and then she cooks one night.
So you cook 5 nights a week.
Yeah, and you know, this isn't when I'm home. I cook a lot because it's like, it relaxes me. It's like a project you can start and finish, and you have a completed, you know, sense of completion there. You know.
Yeah.
And the refrigerator's always stocked with a lot of staples. I mean, at one point a couple of weeks ago, when we started realizing there might be interruptions in some of the supply chains, I got another refrigerator freezer down in the garage in the basement. Both freezers are stocked full, and I've got
next to the pallet of toilet paper.
Well, the pallet of toilet paper is someplace else, but you know, I mean, but really not a pallet of toilet paper.
Yeah.
But you know, I've got a vac sealer, and I butcher and portion out lots of stuff, so that when it's time to eat, it's like, hey, what do you want tonight? Chicken. You pick the protein and then start building a meal around it. And a lot of time I get all this shit done from start to finish. I'll defrost in the afternoon, and from start to finish, you know, put a meal on the table, couple courses in an hour and 15 minutes.
What are you doing for entertainment?
Well, this is a house with 5 stereos and 1 television, right?
Oh, you're big on music.
So we are both science fiction fans, right? And I don't know, you know about the Expanse series?
I don't.
Okay. The Expanse is a set of books. There are now 9 books written by 2 guys from Albuquerque under a pen name. And the Sci-Fi Network picked up this thing a few years ago and started making a series out of it. It's a space opera series that follows 4 or 5 core characters, right? And the books there's 9 books right now and a bunch of mini books in between. I'm 3 books in, starting the 4th one. And you know, once again, I was haunting a bookstore because I'm a voracious reader, right?
Yeah.
That's what I do on aircraft. I don't watch videos on a little screen like that. That's not really movies. You know? Movies are like movies.
Yeah.
Just like, you know, you listen to the $2 million stereo for a while, you kind of get used to listening to the, you know.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, so the Expanse series it's incredibly well done. And so Sci-Fi, of course, you know, went out of business, but Bezos, oddly enough, is a Sci-Fi fan apparently, and he picked it up. So it's in Amazon Prime. They're 4 seasons in right now, and we burned through the first 3, and it's incredibly well done, incredibly well casted. There's a little bit of work to make the jumps that they make for screenwriting between the books and the TV, but so we burned through all that.
And it's like an alien show or something, The Expanse? Is that what you're saying?
Yes and no. Short version is that Earth has colonized Mars, the moon, and also has colonies out on the asteroid belt. And this has developed into distinct cultures with, of course, factions that are not in agreement with each other. And and an alien item is found by a faction, and this starts a whole chain reaction of shit.
And what time is this based?
Is this very, very fast?
Is it present time? Is it future?
No. Future by, I don't know, a few hundred years.
Oh,
but of
okay.
course they have I mean, the things evolved to the point where they came up with, and there's a pre-book that I haven't read yet. They came up with basically a fusion drive that allows space travel, right? But not to spoil all of it, all I'll tell you is it's incredible. If you're a sci-fi fan at all, especially hard science fiction, like I grew up on, like Asimov and Frank Herbert and all that shit, you know, and Robert Heinlein, it's incredibly well casted. It's incredibly well done. So it's like,
I'll check it out. Well, I've got a really good friend of mine who's a rock star up in Canada, and he's a huge alien guy, like to a point where he's written books about his encounters with aliens and stuff like that.
That's pretty
And
good.
and so I got to tell him about it. He may have
Yeah,
already read all the books. I don't know.
and the next one that we're into now is something called Altered Carbon, which is
I
a
saw
little
that.
darker, more dystopian kind
Yeah,
of view.
yeah.
Um, and it's one where they have the ability to take your core memories and intelligence, and they produce, I forget the name of the thing, but it's a disc. It's a biomass disc that they can then pull out of a body and insert in a different body. So bodies have become sleeves.
Huh.
Yeah, it's pretty serious. There's
What
AI
what
in
time
it.
of day are you watching this stuff?
Evening, evening.
Like,
I don't watch TV all day. I mean, I
no,
don't
no,
have
no,
time.
no. But I mean, like after your 10 o'clock dinner or before?
Well, the dinner now is maybe 8 o'clock, but yeah, what'll happen is we'll for background we'll have like reruns of Iron Chef running or something
Yeah.
that you don't have to really pay attention to. That's good
Well,
for background. Then we'll settle in and we'll watch in between. Yeah, a few nights ago we binge watched through 3 episodes or something.
yeah.
One of
My
these.
my
Right?
my issue is number one, I'm friggin' exhausted by 10 o'clock at night to a point where
Yeah.
there's no way I could possibly start a movie because I'm going to be sleeping 10 minutes into it. And the
Yeah.
other thing is, typically, even by 6 o'clock, I am so brain fried. Like my brain is just completely saying, leave me alone. So I watch mindless stuff, like I watched like Ozarks. To me was an amazing series because you
Well,
didn't really
I
have to
want to get
think
into
about it.
Ozark. I haven't gotten a buy-in yet from Lee, but
Yeah.
I've actually watched some of Tiger King. She's watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
See, I like stuff
What's the
like
rest of
that because you don't have to think about it. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Whereas when you get into
well, the
deep
other
sci-fi, it's like, whoa, my brain is fried.
well the other thing that's on constantly around here is all manner of different cooking stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
I kind of pined for the Food Network 15 years ago when, dare I say his name, Batali and Emerald and all those guys were on. And now it's kind of reduced to mainly game show cooking.
Yeah.
And Chopped is really good. It's a lot of fun. Beat Bobby Flay is fun because it's 30-minute slots, so it goes fast,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
after about an hour and a half of that kind of stuff, I'm like, give me a break. And I damn
Yeah.
sure don't want to watch the news other than find out what the weather's going to be tomorrow.
That's kind of me too. I watch the president. I try to watch the president every day for at least 30 minutes because then it gets into the Q&A that's exactly the same questions and answers every single damn day.
See, I watched the network summary. Like I was all
Yeah.
CBS until it started to be nothing but crying people and
Yeah.
doom and gloom. And I
But
switched to ABC. It's a little better, right?
the reason I watch the president is because there's no tilt either direction. So
Right.
Fox hasn't spun it, and MSNBC hasn't spun it. It's
Right.
right in it's right out of the horse's mouth, as you would say in this particular case. And
Yeah.
so I like to listen to that, but that and then a few headlines that I get on my iPhone during the day. That's the extent of my news. I talk to people in our industry. I listen to a lot of podcasts and videos and stuff that people in our industry are doing.
Yeah, it's kind of like sometimes in the morning when I'm having, yogurt and berries or stuff before I work out, sometimes I'll turn on Bloomberg, right, to see what's going on with the market opens and all, because I'm watching all the market stuff pretty closely. Just like the main reason I watch the news is just to kind of get a feel. I always try and stay up with current events worldwide. And of course, we're not getting a lot of current events worldwide. We're like so focused on America. That's why you go to BBCA or something, just to get a little bit of input from somebody else.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
this all relates to the state of where we're at and what's going to go on. Because, of course, we're not in control of any of it. I don't have a negative feeling about that. I tell people all the time, the desire to go back to work exists universally. The desire to socialize exists universally, and that is going to drive a lot of this. But the municipalities, not not anybody in our industry are going to be the decision-making power that allow us to go gather again. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
uh,
I mean, I do think there's another side of that, and I don't really want to get into it too much because I'm exhausted by it. But there is another side, and some of these protests that are going on. As much as I'm not like, I believe everyone has a right to protest. I've just
absolutely,
never,
this is
I've
America, man.
myself, I've never been a protester. I go with the flow for the most part. I'm not going to stand up and say I demand my rights and all of this stuff. I'm an import. I'm a Canadian living in the United States, so I feel like I better follow US laws. I'm not going to demand anything special or whatever, whether it's religious rights or ethnicity or anything like that. I mean, I'm just one of everybody else, right? So the protests, I get why they're doing it, but the thing is, there are some constitutional rights that have been stepped on here,
No
and
question.
I'm not talking about guns. I'm
No, no, no,
talking,
no, no. I'm not
yeah,
talking about guns
I'm
either.
talking about the rest of it. And people being told you can't go to work or you can't leave your house or things like that. That's getting pretty challenging at that point. And I don't think anyone wants to infect 100 people today. So I
No.
think I've always said common sense and personal responsibility will at some point prevail in all of this.
And one of my doctors, and I have a whole team of medical people that keep me, yeah, with the energy, help me keep the energy I have and the
Yeah.
and the focus and drive I have at 65 years old. Right?
Damn,
It's
you're
like
you're
one of my doctors like,
65 now.
look,
That's amazing.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
I didn't realize you're 10
on
years older than
Medicare.
me. I'm 55, so you're doing well, buddy.
Yeah,
I mean, you have more energy than
thank you.
I do, and you're 10 years older than me. So maybe one day off the microphone, you and I should have a talk, because you turned me on to a book
Oh
one
yeah,
time, Younger Next
I got a
Year.
whole bunch of hacks and tips that I started living by 15 years ago that have a
Well,
lot to do
15
with
years
it.
ago, you turned me on to a book called Younger Next Year. And
That's one of the things that started it. Yes.
yeah, I was kind of too young for it at that time, but I actually read it. And since that time, I bought it on audiobook and I've listened to it a couple more times. And those guys, they were just really bright. I mean, it was really just about, get out of the frickin' sedentary lifestyle, do something,
That
you
and
know.
there's six odd core principles in that book. And just like as we touched on in my version one of Geezers of Gear, I got a whole bunch of stuff that I got from Colin Powell too about how
Yeah,
to live. Be careful what you wish for; you might just get it. Avoid having your ego so close to your position that when your position goes, your ego goes too.
yeah,
It, it ain't as
yeah,
bad as you think. It'll look better in the morning. And you
yeah,
just got to stay focused on, okay, is the glass going to be half full or half empty? And I'm a half full, I'm a 2/3 full guy.
yeah,
You just got
yeah, me
to
too.
go, okay. And the
Well,
other thing is you got to go, what can you control?
yeah.
You really can control a lot less than you think. So as soon as you let go of the stuff, worrying about the stuff you can't control, it's a lot easier, you know?
Yeah. Patrick Whalen did uh, I guess it was called some sort of I'm trying to look for it on my computer right now as I'm talking to you. It was like a panel. He did it, I think, day before yesterday, Monday, and it's up on YouTube now, and it's called "The Show Must Go On: Live Entertainment Town Hall." And I could send you the link if you're interested in
Yeah,
watching it.
dude.
It's a couple hours, but I mean, he's got people on there like, hang on, let me find the list, and I will tell you. But he's got people like, hang on, I don't want to play it. Stop playing. I know Jake Berry's on
Of course,
there.
Jake's on it. Yeah.
Ray Waddell, Jim Digby, Stuart
I,
Ross, Alex Hodges, Adam Kornfeld, David Norman, Lori Delancey, Doug Roundtree, Mike Downing, Misty Roberts. I mean, he's got a really great list of people
a
that
lot of
go,
those people are dear friends of mine.
yeah,
Alex
yeah,
Hodges and I go back to the 70s, okay?
yeah.
He's,
No,
he's
but
a good friend.
an amazing group of people. But one of the things that was said, and I can't exactly remember who said it, but he made a very good point, because I've been a very big advocate of let's get the frickin' hell back to work somehow, some
Right,
version of it. I don't care what
right.
version it is. Give everybody something to wake up to every morning to say, today I'm going to do this, whatever that is. Right. And, but somebody said, here's the situation. the house is on fire. We can't rush into it. The house is still burning. You can't just rush people into the house. You can't rush the help into the house while it's still burning. And that makes perfect sense to me. That's a very good analogy for our industry. The house
Yeah,
is still,
that's really actually pretty accurate.
yeah,
Once again, um, I I'd love to be out on the road visiting customers even now, but it's just not sensible. The
yeah,
sensible thing to do is to keep, and I got enough work, believe it or not, I got enough work to keep me busy enough. And then of course there's the project list, that garage down there that's still
yeah,
not been touched,
yeah, yeah,
bunch of stuff. I'd had a woman who works part-time for me clean down a pair of storage units because once again, when I moved from that
yeah,
estate to where I'm at now, the beauty is just there's no, there's really not a lot of the work level to keep it up is like that big,
yeah, yeah. Well, I
Um,
recently did something similar, and I went from 6,000 feet or 5,800 or whatever it was to I'm in a 1,900 square foot cool little villa in a very nice gated community, Palm Beach Polo. But I love it. I mean,
yeah,
I feel
see this.
uncluttered in my head, it's wild.
I've
I
been in
love
this
it.
place since early 2011, and it was it's much closer in than the marriage mansion was.
Yeah.
Um, and that means I can get to the airport in 25 minutes to 30 minutes instead of,
Yeah.
45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah.
And I can get into town or into Bucket or to the buildings all in, under half an hour or so, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's an older community, was built in the 80s, and it's very well built and it's quiet. The pool's like about as close as the pool was at the house,
Yeah.
different direction, horizontally instead of vertically. But I don't have to be the pool boy.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
and
no, I completely get it. I completely get it. And I feel the same way. I mean, it's just, for me, it's been liberating in a sense to not
yeah,
have as
and
much
listen,
junk to deal with every day.
once I recovered from the shock of the whole dissolution of the marriage and everything, and the financial shock of it,
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, you could move into Buckhead and buy that penthouse or buy that apartment because I was determined not to get into into a single family home with a bunch of upkeep again.
Right.
Then I went and I looked at the taxes and the HOAs and all, and I was going, don't do it.
Yeah.
In 10 years, you're going to spend $500,000 for an address and you're
Yeah.
not going to be as focused and you're still going to want to renovate. So I renovated this whole place over the course of about 2.5 years, top to bottom. And it's just like, it's kind of perfect,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh, good, man.
Um,
I remember long time ago, I was at someone's house for drinks and dinner or something. And I went to use the bathroom. And, as you're standing up peeing, you're looking around. And there was a little sign on the wall, a little framed picture. And I'll never forget. I mean, I read it and it stuck with me. And this was probably 30 years ago. Happiness is wanting what you have. And,
yep.
it's so hard to get to that place, but I kind of have found myself a little bit closer, and divorce can do that to you. But, divorce is very impactful when it comes
Well,
to your
oddly
stuff.
enough, I mean, not to veer into anything negative. I mean, me getting behind that divorce I went through was one of the three best things that's occurred to me in the last 15 years.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
second one was to get out of my former employer and get involved with Huntley, right?
Yeah.
Which has
Yeah.
proven to be incredibly successful, both
Yeah.
emotionally and work satisfaction wise, and of course, it's financially successful.
Yeah. Good for
Um,
you, man.
and
That's amazing, Robert.
I reset everything. Marcel, I live with absolutely no debt, zero debt,
Good for you, man.
and so once again, you have freedom. I mean, I joke around that this whole interruption in the business stream is going to kill my vacation schedule for this year.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, but that's okay. When we go back to work, I'm ready. And I mean,
Yeah.
believe it or not, I'm still dealing with projects. I'm dealing with Live Nation on a long-term lease for another venue. I've got several of these in Atlanta and one in North Carolina. Got another one on the go that, basically is queued up, you know. I've
That's
got,
awesome.
and once again, one of the things I'm back to now, because I do a lot of administration in my role at Christie Lights of the jobs I work on, even with I got a bunch of staff. I'm just the tip of the spear,
Yeah.
and I don't mean permanent staff. I'm talking about, the staff that help execute. I'm back to talking to a lot of people at longer length than I normally would, just in, that long list of people, And
Yeah.
I'm also like you, I'm on Zoom calls. I was on one last week with something called EIR, Entertainment Response, and that's all good, but I try really hard to stay away from. There's no point in accentuating the negative here,
Yeah.
Marcel.
I have a real
Um,
hard time with that too.
the glass is definitely 2/3 full.
Yeah.
As one of my key clients says, we're going to gather again, folks.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I watched the Prince thing on television last night. That was another one of those off the normal things. Did you see it?
Yeah. Amazing.
It was really, really well done.
Yeah.
There were a couple of points that, well, like any of these things, there's a point where you just go, okay.
Yeah.
But
Geez.
most of it was really,
Really, really good. Yeah. No, and I was really looking forward to
and
that
of
too.
course,
Of course, I fell asleep about, a third of the way into it, so I got to watch the rest of it today.
well, I DVR'd the whole thing, but
Oh
we
yeah,
actually
me too.
stayed up through the whole thing.
Yeah, I couldn't. I was exhausted yesterday. I don't know why, but
well, as soon as it was over, I was like, "It's Lisa night owl. She stays up late a lot," but I'm like,
yeah,
I'm in bed and early rising.
yeah, that's me.
Just
Yeah, that's me too.
the kids reset all that. Of course, I'm
Yeah,
up late when I'm traveling, but
yeah,
that's just it.
yeah,
I'll tell you that, you know, as I'm sure you're not unawares, the, on the side of getting it all back to go, the promoters and the agents and all, they're all talking and they're all busy getting ready. It's just a question of when it's reasonable and smart to go back and gather
yeah.
people.
There's so many bits and pieces to it. And, people, every time I listen to a new podcast or watch a video or whatever, people are addressing new things. And I'm going, whoa, I never thought of that. Whoa, I never thought of that one. There's a lot of weird little things. Like yesterday, I saw somebody doing an interview somewhere and they were talking about states opening back up. And he said, clothing stores, what about people trying on clothes? Then do you have to sanitize those clothes, sanitize the rack that the clothes came off of, the changing room,
Right,
how do you deal with this
and
stuff?
Lee is a visual merchandiser at REI, so I'm right
Oh,
there.
wow. Yeah. That's incredible. Yeah. Well, Robert, thank you for taking the time to tell me about your day and to hang out and show me some food stuff. And I've got a new binge show to watch, The Expanse. I'm going to check it out. I'm not as deep into sci-fi as you are, but I think
it's really good, Marcel.
Yeah, I'm going to check it out.
I will tell you, you may have to, you may want to go back and read the books because the books give you a lot more depth, but the show by itself is damn good if you like anything like that.
Well, I will tell you, while this thing has been going on, I was really hoping, because I've got a queue of books that I've purchased that are probably 100 books, whether it's audio books or reading books.
Uh-huh.
And I thought, okay, this is going to be a great time to get back to some reading. I haven't read a single friggin' book during this crisis. I only have time to watch, an hour of television every now and then, and that's about it.
It's funny you mentioned that because my Expanse book number 4, I'm only about 20 pages into it, and by now I would have finished it in a normal. Because I do all my reading on
flights.
Aircraft,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And evenings in hotels. Obviously there are nights when you're out entertaining with the clients and all, but there are other nights where you just go, you get in and you go,
yeah.
I need to be sharp tomorrow.
Unless there's a really good basketball,
go to bed,
unless there's a really good basketball or football game on or something. I don't watch television in hotel rooms, so I either read or do some work, But yeah, I'm right there with you. I just haven't had time to read, and it's incredible that I am literally twice as busy as I was before, and
That's great.
making less than half as much. So
Well, for a guy who has no revenue coming in,
yeah,
I'm damn busy. That's all
yeah,
I can tell you.
yeah.
But
No,
once again, this is a situation that will have a finite solution, and it will end,
of
and
course.
we will be back at it.
Yeah,
And I'll be ready to go. I still can't even get half the projects done I want to get done around the house because
yeah,
once again,
yeah,
pretty soon
yeah,
you're on an hour phone call with this designer and a 30-minute
yeah.
phone call with this production manager.
It's
And this is all
amazing.
great stuff
It
because we're
really is
connecting,
amazing.
staying connected to our peers.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, thank you, Robert. You were officially my first guest on this new Geezers of Gear
Well, thank you, Marcel.
Tales from a Pandemic. That's what it's called. Tales from a Pandemic. And
And
Robert
thanks
is
for having
never
me.
short on tales.
There you go.
Thanks, buddy.
Bye-bye,
Be
Marcel.
well, bud.